I'm here at the headquarters of the Gideon's International in Nashville, Tennessee, because I brought them a little gift here in this box that I'd like to leave them. The Gideons themselves as an organization have left a lot of their own gifts around the world. They're the largest distributor of free Bibles, and they've placed over 2 billion of them in schools, military barracks, and of course hotels all around the globe. And at the front of every printed version of the Gideon Bible, we'll find Gideon's name and a picture of a lamp and a jar, referencing that story in the book of Judges when Gideon has this great battle victory using an army that doesn't have any weapons, just lamps and clay pots. And in their mission statement, the Gideon's International say that they admire Gideon for his faith and obedience. And I think this is a pretty good example of how we tend to view Bible characters as these heroic figures to look up to.
And the Lord gave a tremendous victory to Gideon. But more important still, he learned that one man multiplied by God's power equals victory no matter what the odds.
There is God's champion, who will be the one to stand like Gideon. I'll be that man.
But if we take a closer look at the Gideon saga, there's a real shady undertone that seems to suggest that the story is actually trying to communicate the exact opposite.
And when Gideon talked to the Lord about the size of his army, he got a surprising answer.
So let's plot a graph here where this represents time and then this represents how the character is doing in the story, like highs and lows. And I think a lot of times when we think about the story of Gideon, we talk about it like it's the movie Rudy, where we have this like flawed but pretty likable protagonist, but he's not the smartest, so he has some setbacks, but he's able to overcome them and ultimately achieve something incredible. So how does the Gideon story compare? Where does he start out? Does he start out doing pretty good? Does he start out neutral? Well, how do we say rock bottom? Because at the start of the Gideon story, he's actually hiding in a wine press threshing wheat because he's afraid that the invading Midianite army is going to come and take it away. I guess like the grasshoppers in A Bug's Life. So he's hiding in a wine press. He's the youngest son from the weakest clan in Israel. It's really rock bottom. But some good news here, because an angel from the Lord shows up and says, "Times are changing, Gideon, and I want to use you to do it." So things are looking up, huh? Well, not really, because Gideon refuses to believe it's actually a messenger from the Lord until he agrees to show him a sign. And spoiler alert, this whole story is just going to ping pong back and forth between these two poles. God asks Gideon to do something, and Gideon hesitates, like right here. The angel says, "Here's your first mission, Gideon. There's this nearby altar to a false god, and I want you to destroy it." But we read, because Gideon was too afraid of the people of the town to do it by day, he waited to do it by night. Then again on the second mission, God says, "Okay, it's time to put together some guys for an army." And Gideon says, "Wait, I don't believe you. If this is something you really want me to do, can you give me a sign with like the fleece and the dew, which God provides?" But Gideon still doesn't believe. He requests a second sign. Somehow through all this hesitation and disbelief, Gideon does end up putting together a huge army, but God says, "That's way too many people. I want you to trust me here," and sends most of them away. And then on the night of the big attack here, when God says, "Okay, it's go time, go attack the Midianites," Gideon doesn't obey immediately. First, he has to go check out the camp for himself to make sure it's all clear. And then, yeah, he does end up sending in the charge with the 300 guys with the jars and the lamps, and they end up driving out a much bigger army. But then immediately after, he ends up recalling all the guys that God already had him send away, and he starts chasing the Midianite army, which is not something that God told him to do. And then he ends up torching a nearby Israelite village to the ground because they don't want to help him out on this revenge quest. And then for the grand finale, he sets up this idolatrous shrine in his hometown, and the story tells us that all of Israel prostituted itself there. So unless we just zoom in to this one part of the story and forget about everything else, we really can't see this as some sort of heroic Rudy narrative. It's got to be trying to do something else.
When you read the fleece story in the larger context of the Gideon story, the conflict for you, the reader, is, oh man, he lacks faith again? When is this guy ever going to get it? Then the Gideon story takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
Because he's this anti-hero. The whole story is portraying the need for a leader who won't be like Gideon, but who will truly have radical faith.
So those are the guys from the Bible Project, which I'm sure you've seen the animated videos they've done for each book of the Bible, but they also have a great series about how to read the Bible like Jewish literature. And episodes like this one, Ancient versus Modern Ways of Reading the Bible, made me realize that a lot of our reading habits come from Greek storytelling. The Greek culture liked their superheroes and their demigods, and when reading those stories, the readers invited to see themselves in the heroes. It's like a proxy.
How you like your costume?
Good.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna do with it?
In contrast, Jewish literature is almost set up to prevent us from projecting ourselves onto the characters that way. The trajectories of David, Solomon, Moses, all kind of keep us at an arm's length from wanting to be like them. But we love heroes enough that sometimes that doesn't stop us from trying to twist some of these stories into inspiring narratives anyway, and really project a Greek style of hero onto a Jewish style of literature.
I'll be that man.
So here today at the Gideon's International, I have brought them a gift of a Gideon action figure. There's his little sword and the fleece for him to lay out, but I have one more part to complete his costume, and it's this, a helmet. I figure if we do a translation of the Bible where we revise the character's name to Darth Gideon, it might counteract our urge to turn him into this heroic icon. So reading this Bible story would be something like this. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the tree which belonged to Joash, while his son, Darth Gideon, threshed wheat in the winepress. I kind of like the vibe of that. And this is just one Bible story. I wonder how many others we've completely missed the meaning of by turning them into action figures.